Well, I mean, the real truth is those people are idiots.
It's at us. Never,
Like, I can't do this.
The Avengers cast have united against working with Pedro Pascal. After shocking allegations emerged, they're demanding his immediate removal from all Disney projects. But it's the bombshell evidence they're about to drop that could end his career forever. Let's break it down. The whisper that shook Marvel. Pedro Pascal, Marvel's newest golden child, may not be the daddy the internet thinks he is. Behind the scenes of the Disney-backed Marvel universe, a storm is brewing. Quiet at first, a glance, a comment, a refusal to share a stage. Now, it's exploded. Multiple members of the original Avengers cast, yes, the icons who helped build Marvel into a $30 billion empire, are allegedly refusing to work with Pedro Pascal, citing growing discomfort, off-the-record accusations, and what some are calling a disturbing pattern of behavior. Their chilling phrase, "We can't work with a predator." Let that sink in. Over the last few years, Pedro Pascal has become the go-to man for every major studio in Hollywood. If it's a billion-dollar franchise, he's in it. The Mandalorian, The Last of Us, Wonder Woman 1984. Now, Marvel's next flagship project, Fantastic Four. And yet, not everyone's cheering. Critics, industry voices, even some actors, have begun pushing back on the Pascal saturation and what they view as a carefully managed persona masking something far less wholesome.
And then Pedro Pascal is for some reason Mr. Fantastic.
Of course he is.
That scoff, that wasn't just internet sarcasm. That's the sound of Hollywood insiders losing patience. And the real bombshell? Sources say that when Pascal's name came up as the next Avengers leader, the pushback was immediate. Chris Evans, the original Captain America, reportedly stormed out of a closed-door meeting. Not because he wanted the role, but because of who was being handed it. Now remember, these are the same actors who sacrificed over a decade for Marvel. Contract renewals, grueling press tours, the physical toll, the PR perfection, and now they're being replaced by someone who's never lifted Thor's hammer, never led Wakanda, and, according to some, never earned his place. For years, Pedro leaned hard into his viral fan appeal. TikTok edits, thirst tweets, branded as Internet Daddy, he cultivated the image of the charming, mature protector. But now, that same label is being examined through a very different lens. He laughs it off.
You are Daddy Pascal.
Daddy Pascal. Papi Pascal.
What do you make of the word of the whole vibe of the daddy thing?
But ask yourself, is that the kind of behavior the Avengers want leading a franchise? Scarlett Johansson, when asked about returning to Marvel post-lawsuit, dropped this cryptic but pointed remark.
And I'm really happy that no one else will have to deal with what I have to deal with.
Some now believe she wasn't just talking about Disney's lawyers. Behind the scenes, we've heard from multiple VFX artists, former Marvel staffers, and assistant producers. What they describe is chaos. Executives scrambling to suppress rumors, internal HR teams investigating new concerns, a production halt on the Fantastic Four script rewrite. But the public face? Pedro Pascal, still smiling, still on the press tour, still answering fan questions like nothing is wrong. Watch how he hedges on whether Mr. Fantastic will even lead the Avengers.
There is something that happens within the comics, but it is something that happens in the comics. It isn't necessarily something that my character's future entails.
That's not clarity. That's a man buying time. One Marvel insider, a stunt coordinator who worked with Pascal briefly during costume tests, allegedly described him as high maintenance and cold toward support crew. Others hinted at power plays that alienated junior staffers. Some VFX contractors even claim Pascal's constant late-night retakes and ADR requests led to burnout-level workloads.
I was working 7 days a week, averaging 64 hours a week on a good week. And he also said, I've seen coworkers sit next to me and break down and start crying.
Let's not sugarcoat it. Disney pays Pascal millions. The artists making him look like a superhero, crying at their desks. Now, if there's anyone whose voice still carries real weight inside the Marvel machine, it's Robert Downey Jr. After all, he is Iron Man. The franchise was literally built on his back. According to two sources with knowledge of internal Marvel meetings, Downey Jr. reportedly warned studio heads about pushing Pascal too far into the Avengers spotlight, citing discomfort among core cast members. His alleged words? This isn't leadership, it's liability. That tension may have been hinted at during a recent press appearance, where Downey gave one of his famously coded emotional interviews. Watch this clip and tell us if you notice something off.
I don't even know why you still have me on this show when I think about it.
You don't need to be a body language expert to see that's not just a joke. That's a man sick of playing defense for a studio that's lost control of its image. It was supposed to be routine. A closed-door table read for Avengers, Secret Wars. But according to 3 crew insiders, what transpired that day is now being scrubbed from internal Marvel logs. One source says Pascal tried to dominate the table read, even interrupting a monologue by Anthony Mackie, the new Captain America. Another insider claims Chris Hemsworth flat out stopped reading his lines and said, "Are we doing a team movie or a Pedro Pascal. Solo flick. The tension was so thick, the session reportedly ended early, with Pascal asked to leave the room so others could finish their scenes without interruption. That same source also claims Pascal never returned to the session. He hasn't been seen at a Marvel team table read since. What makes this even harder to stomach for some fans is how Pascal appears in interviews. Lighthearted, self-deprecating, humble. But when you look closer, cracks start to appear. Remember that Daddy Pascal moment from earlier? Listen to how he describes his reaction watching The Last of Us, the very show that made him a global icon.
The only problem I have with it is that I'm in it. But not because I don't like what you do. It's just distracting.
It sounds modest until you realize this is a pattern. Pascal routinely talks about how he distracts from his own work, as if even his presence overshadows others. Now imagine working with him. Imagine being a co-star who has to fight for screen time while the studio gives him full creative control. One Marvel actor, who requested anonymity, reportedly said, "It's like being in a movie with a mirror. All the light points toward him." Scarlett Johansson, no stranger to industry battles, may have foreshadowed this entire controversy years ago. But what if others are still dealing with it? What if people on the inside saw Pedro Pascal, with his overnight fame, his online obsession, his curated image, as yet another Disney-protected figure, propped up at the expense of those with less leverage? Imagine that's your reality. While a millionaire actor demands take after take to follow a variety of instructions, the actors are no longer keeping silent, and the outrage isn't just fanboy drama. It's a class war inside Hollywood's biggest brand. Now here's where things get chilling. You'd expect Disney to shut this down. You'd expect a corporate statement, maybe a denial. But so far, nothing. No confirmation, no denial. Just a string of increasingly awkward silences and dodged questions. Pascal was even asked whether he would take on an Avengers leadership role. His response?
I'm not even trying to avoid spoilers. It's a little bit of a mislead.
That's not a denial. That's a man caught in a trap of his own making. And the Avengers? They've gone silent too. Sources say press handlers were instructed to avoid open Quanda formats during group interviews featuring original cast members. Tom Holland, absent from every Pascal-adjacent promo. Don Cheadle, missing from the last 2 Marvel press roundtables. It's like a coordinated pullback. Quiet, intentional, deliberate. Marvel isn't just facing another casting debate. This isn't fan backlash over a trailer. This is the internal unraveling of a franchise that once prided itself on unity. Avengers assemble? Not anymore. And here's the truth Disney won't say out loud. You can't build Phase 6 on silence. Not when your cast, the people who carried your franchise for over a decade, are turning their backs. Not when fans are already catching on. Not when the person at the center of it all won't even say whether he still has the job. And not when the final line being whispered behind closed doors is this: he can't lead the Avengers. He shouldn't even be near them. Collapse behind the curtain. What happens when your billion-dollar franchise depends on a man half your cast allegedly refuses to work with? You go into damage control. That's exactly what Disney did, according to multiple insiders from the Fantastic Four pre-production team, who say an emergency call was placed just days after the disastrous table read we covered in earlier. One producer described the call as the studio equivalent of a containment breach. And according to that source, Pedro Pascal was the breach. Let's talk about that day on set. A Marvel set decorator who worked with Pascal on a test shoot for Fantastic Four came forward off the record to describe an interaction that reportedly left a junior camera assistant in tears. We can't air her full statement due to legal protection clauses, but what we can share is this. She claims Pascal became visibly irritated during lighting setups, snapped at staff, and when questioned, muttered something about how he was tired of incompetence slowing down his rhythm. It was corroborated by another crew member present during the same shoot. This isn't a one-off. It's part of a larger pattern. Pascal, the star, everyone else, disposable. But if you really want to understand the scope of the fallout, you have to go back to April 17th, the now infamous leadership restructure call between Marvel execs and key Phase 6 cast members. According to 2 separate sources who were invited to the Zoom but did not speak on record, Pedro Pascal logged in late, didn't mute his mic, and at one point, allegedly while thinking he was muted, referred to the call as a circle jerk of legacy cosplayers. Yes, that's the phrase. The moment it happened, they say, the mood changed completely. Chris Hemsworth reportedly closed his laptop. Anthony Mackie muted himself for 5 full minutes. One Marvel coordinator told us, after that call, we knew he's not leading the Avengers, ever. Disney PR has refused to acknowledge the call, but sources claim screen captures of the session exist and may have already been shared with top-level execs, including returning Marvel architect Kevin Feige. So what's the studio's move now? Insiders say Marvel is scrambling to rework its Phase 6 blueprint, and that includes a shocking reversal, bringing back Robert Downey Jr., not as Iron Man, but as a multiversal variant and team mentor figure, effectively replacing Pascal's character as the central strategist of the new Avengers lineup. Don't believe it? Take a look at how predictable this move was to those paying attention.
I've been saying this for years now. The second the coffers start to dry up, they're going to get straight back on the phone with Robert Downey Jr.
Insiders confirm that call already happened. And while nothing is signed yet, early concept art has reportedly been pulled from storage depicting RDJ in a black and gold armor variant, standing between two versions of Captain America, Sam Wilson and Steve Rogers. Meanwhile, Pascal's involvement in Avengers, Secret Wars is being reevaluated. Translation, he's out. Quietly, slowly, strategically. This isn't just about actors, it's not just crew. The fans are catching on. Pascal's overexposure, his casting in legacy franchises, all of it is beginning to turn even die-hard Marvel fans off. One popular YouTube panel said it best.
I'm so sick of this very limited lineup of actors. Pedro Pascal, he jumps around from here and there and everywhere. And I really liked him in that one series of Game of Thrones that he was in.
Now multiply that feeling by millions of disillusioned fans. From Reddit to TikTok, the backlash isn't a blip, it's a wave. And guess what? Disney knows it. The question now is, how much longer can Marvel keep this quiet? When your most respected cast members, Evans, Johansson, Hemsworth, Downey, Mackie, are pulling back, when your crew is leaking breakdown stories, when your press tours are dominated not by enthusiasm, but awkward silence, when the guy leading your biggest franchise arc is now seen as a predator figure by his own peers, you don't recover with a trailer drop. You don't recover with a tweet. You recover by cleaning house. And if what we're hearing is true, Marvel has already started. Pedro Pascal isn't canceled. He's being quietly removed, piece by piece, frame by frame, like a glitch in a visual effect the studio no longer wants on screen. It happened during a Disney Media Day, closed to the public but attended by press, crew, and studio reps. Pedro Pascal, in a moment caught by a still unreleased clip, reportedly joked to a production runner, "Don't worry, sweetheart, Daddy always makes the camera love him." Several staffers laughed nervously, but according to a female crew member who filed a quiet report with Marvel HR, it didn't feel like a joke. She described the tone as condescending and uncomfortable, particularly because it was said in front of several younger staffers, some of whom were new to the industry. The clip itself hasn't leaked yet, but a journalist from Entertainment Weekly who was present at the event allegedly reached out to Disney for comment about the remark. That comment never came. But what did surface, days later, was far more damning. An internal Disney memo circulated among Phase 6 marketing teams was leaked anonymously to a fan-run Discord server. It included updated press guidelines with this line highlighted in red: avoid open discussion of Pedro Pascal's character arc. Do not reference Avengers leadership. Messaging should emphasize ensemble storytelling. Why is that significant? Because it proves that Disney was aware of internal tension, actively shifting narrative focus, reframing Pascal's role to de-escalate fallout. Disney has not confirmed the memo's authenticity, but two former Marvel press liaisons have said its formatting matches legitimate internal style. This is what corporate distancing looks like. This is what happens when internet daddy becomes brand liability. Let's talk about Chris Evans, one of Marvel's most bankable stars, and notably one of the most private. After initially attending early Phase 6 meetings, Evans has reportedly gone silent. No Marvel tweets, no interviews, no Comic-Con appearances. Why? Insiders say Evans felt disrespected when Pascal's Mr. Fantastic was positioned as the new central tactician, effectively taking over what would have traditionally been a Captain America or Iron Man role. Go back and watch Evans's earliest reflections on the Captain America job, and you'll see how seriously he takes legacy.
It kept coming back my way. I was saying no out of fear, really.
Evans didn't do Marvel for the fame, he did it for purpose. And when that purpose feels undermined by someone who refers to actual Avengers as cosplayers on a Zoom call, he walks. The biggest news? An unconfirmed but strongly supported report that Disney has already drafted new scenes to bring back a beloved original Avenger for Avengers, Secret Wars, not in a cameo, in a full supporting role to recenter audience trust. The most likely candidates? Robert Downey Jr., already rumored. Chris Evans, less likely, but still viable. Mark Ruffalo, who's recently cleared his schedule post She-Hulk. In fact, as explained by Tom Holland, Ruffalo may have expressed his frustration with the current Marvel structure during a now viral panel moment.
Don's face is so priceless, but the thing is no one took him seriously.
That awkward energy, not just press banter, it's fracture, and every attempt to patch over it is failing. Remember when Pedro Pascal being called Daddy was considered cute, endearing, a PR asset? Now, it's become a legal and branding minefield. A growing body of analysts are warning Disney about the blurred boundaries between Pascal's fan-lust persona and family-friendly branding. Think that's an overreaction? This is from a former sex crimes detective speaking about Disney's recent direction.
I was a sex crimes detective at Anaheim Police Department, and many of the things that I see Disney doing, or what's happening in our schools, we would have arrested somebody for doing that.
Even if that's hyperbole, perception matters. Pascal joking about being daddy, starring in multiple franchises simultaneously, commanding younger fan bases, and allegedly making off-color comments backstage. That's not just bad PR, that's a ticking time bomb. Look, Pedro Pascal is not Harvey Weinstein. No one's alleging assault, no one's filing lawsuits. But here's what is being alleged: toxic on-set behavior, verbal misconduct toward junior staff, an inflated ego alienating core cast, disruptive influence over team morale, being protected because of fame, not character. And for Disney, that's enough. They can't afford another scandal. They can't gamble Phase 6 on a maybe. Pascal may still show up in trailers. He may still post selfies on set. But inside the studio, the whisper is getting louder. He's not the future. He's a phase we have to move past. The era of exile. If Disney has a handbook for handling PR disasters, it's in tatters right now. After the Media Day incident, after the reported Zoom call slip, after the tension with the Avengers cast, legal advisors from Disney's in-house counsel reportedly began circulating a memo referred to internally as the Persona Containment Protocol. The document, which was not meant to be public, included directives to limit Pedro Pascal's solo appearances, shift language in press kits from leader to ensemble, and, most tellingly, a clause under brand risk mitigation. Here's what one legal insider claims that clause included: avoid direct reference to any sexually suggestive fan phenomena involving Mr. Pascal on all platforms where content is intended for general or family audiences. Translation: no more Daddy Pascal on Disney's watch. Why does that matter? Because that nickname, once embraced, is now viewed as a public relations liability. What started as worship has soured into resentment. Pedro Pascal's once loyal fandom is fracturing, not just because of the allegations, but because fans feel manipulated, overmarketed, burned out. And nowhere is that clearer than in this fiery podcast rant from earlier this year.
So I'm just getting really sick of seeing these actors and everything, because when I see them now, I'm not seeing the character that they're playing, I'm seeing the actor.
That's the crux of it. Pascal's charm was his relatability, but overexposure has turned charisma into cliche, presence into parody, leadership into an empty chair. Scarlett Johansson's historic lawsuit didn't just shake Disney, it gave other Marvel veterans leverage, and sources say some of them are ready to use it. Behind closed doors, Johansson reportedly told her reps she would not sign any future contracts if Pascal remained in a central leadership position across the franchise. Multiple co-stars, according to leaks, expressed similar stances, though not in writing, but the effect, immediate. The studio's posture toward Pascal shifted overnight. Suddenly, calls stopped. Event invites dried up. Creative meetings were moved to a later date. A legal standoff Disney does not want repeated. And if you don't believe Disney feels the pressure, watch this CEO interview and count how many ways he says the word unrealistic.
There's a level of expectation that they have that is just not realistic. And they are adding to a set of challenges that this business is already facing.
Now imagine that unrealistic label being applied, not to a union, but to Pedro Pascal himself. The most shocking revelation? According to two separate previews artists working on Avengers: Secret Wars, Pascal's final scene has already been rewritten, entirely. Originally, insiders say, Pascal's Reed Richards was intended to deliver the final line, a callback to Tony Stark's I Am Iron Man, meant to tie the multiverse threads together and establish him as the next narrative anchor. Now, that final line has reportedly been reassigned to another returning Avenger, who, sources hint strongly at Sam Wilson, Anthony Mackie. A decision described by one creative as a course correction based on trust. And Mackie? He's already been quietly speaking out on studio ethics for years.
Yeah, I feel like when you can surround yourself by positive people who appreciate your work, you just want to give more.
That's not just professionalism, that's integrity. And Marvel? They're betting on that now. Not charisma, not memes, not internet thirst. As Pascal's aura dims, another name is being floated in internal pitch decks and casting. Memos: Tom Holland. Yes, Spider-Man himself. He's younger, he's already beloved. And unlike Pascal, his slip-ups are endearing, not destructive. Even when he leaks spoilers, he's the lovable rogue, not a liability.
I'm not allowed to read the scripts because I'm so bad at keeping secrets, and I just don't know them.
Compare that to Pascal calling co-stars cosplayers, or refusing collaborative direction on set. Holland represents what Marvel used to be: fun, focused, tightly managed. Pascal, a dangerous experiment that veered into unchecked ego. The moment moment no one saw, but everyone felt. A Disney executive, during a quiet post-meeting dinner with Marvel talent reps, allegedly referred to Pascal's Reed Richards as a test balloon. That phrase got out. The message to the Avengers cast was clear. Pedro Pascal was never the plan, just a placeholder. And the cast? They took the hint. Several have since agreed to conditional re-engagement, meaning they'll return, but only under new leadership terms. And those terms? No Pedro, no distractions, no more daddy. The final nail may have come not from a headline, but from a screenshot, circulating among private industry circles and recently obtained by an anonymous entertainment insider blog. A series of leaked texts allegedly between two senior Marvel cast members, speculated to be Chris Hemsworth and Don Cheadle, tell us everything we need to know about how Pedro Pascal is viewed from within. One of the texts, referencing a missed production meeting, reads, "Of course he's not here. He shows up when the cameras do, not when the people do." Another reply, "This is why we said no the first time. He doesn't lead, he absorbs." The authenticity of the texts hasn't been confirmed, and likely never will be, but no one in the Marvel camp has denied them either. And the tone? Exhausted, done, united. You might be wondering, if all of this is real, why hasn't Pascal said anything? Well, he nearly did. According to multiple crew members at a Disney Plus promotional shoot for upcoming Marvel content, Pedro Pascal was scheduled for a filmed interview segment alongside returning Avengers stars. But halfway through the shoot, he was quietly pulled from set. One crew member, who asked not to be named, says the production manager received a call from corporate legal and was told to wrap Pascal's footage and hold it in quarantine pending executive review. His shots were never used. The final sizzle reel? All team moments. No Reed Richards, no Pascal. Sources inside CBLA, Pascal's agency, say he's been advised to go silent, citing ongoing liability review language in his Marvel contract. One insider claims Pedro can't speak because the moment he denies anything, he waives certain protections in his image rights clause. If he admits anything, he's done. If he denies it, he's legally vulnerable. So instead, he says nothing. And in Hollywood, nothing is the loudest answer you can give. We said at the beginning that Marvel was planning to reshape everything around Pedro Pascal. Now, they've reshaped everything without him. A confidential pre-visualization leak, recently posted to a Marvel FX contractor's private forum, shows a new Phase 6 title card sequence. Here's what's been reportedly removed or altered. Reed Richards is no longer shown at the center of the Avengers lineup. Final scene cues list Rogers, Variant, and Wilson as narrative anchors. A new character render, suspected to be the young Avengers Wiccan, has taken Pascal's former dialogue cues. Let's be clear, Pedro Pascal hasn't been accused of a crime. There are no lawsuits, no formal complaints with his name on them. But that's what makes this all so terrifying, because in Hollywood, you don't need a smoking gun. You just need unanimous discomfort. When the crew stops cheering, when the cast stops showing up, when the studio stops defending you, when the fans stop asking for you, you're not canceled, you're erased. And what's worse, you're still on the screen, smiling, charming, saying all the right things, but everyone in the room has already moved on. That's not just a Hollywood fallout, that's exile. Thanks for watching. If you had a good time, keep the adventure alive by clicking on one of the suggested videos on your screen right now for more amazing content.
A full-scale rebellion is brewing behind the scenes at Marvel as stars declare war on Disney CEO Bob Iger. Jeremy Renner's explosive rejection of Disney's insult offer is just the beginning.
I'm like, wow, it's going to take me twice the amount of work for half the amount of money.
Meanwhile, other MCU stars are joining the revolution, publicly condemning Iger's leadership.
There's a level of expectation that they have that is just not realistic.
The shocking secret meetings, career-ending threats, and the 3 A-list stars ready to walk away forever. This is the Marvel Civil War they don't want you to know about. The shocking revelation. Jeremy Renner's insulting offer. In early May 2025, during an interview with the High Performance app that was shared on TikTok, Renner made the jaw-dropping claim that Disney had offered him only half of his previous salary for a potential second season of the Disney Plus series Hawkeye. This revelation, documented across multiple entertainment news outlets including Hindustan Times, IndieWire, and People, came as a particular shock considering Renner's long-standing position as one of the original Avengers and his significant contribution to the Marvel Cinematic Universe over more than a decade. What makes the situation even more remarkable is the timing and context surrounding Disney's offer. As many of you will recall, Jeremy Renner suffered a near-fatal snowplow accident on New Year's Day 2023, resulting in over 35 broken bones and multiple titanium replacements. The actor endured a grueling rehabilitation journey, which he later detailed in his memoir, My Next Breath, released on April 29, 2024. It was against this backdrop of recovery and resilience that Renner claims Disney approached him with the reduced salary offer. In his own words during the High Performance interview, Renner expressed his disbelief at the proposal.
I'm like, I'm sorry. Why? Did you think I'm only half the Jeremy because I got ran over? Maybe that's why you want to pay me half?
The actor's pointed reference to his accident adds a particularly poignant dimension to this dispute, suggesting he felt the offer might have been connected to perceptions about his physical capabilities post-recovery. Adding insult to injury, according to Renner, this halved salary was proposed despite expectations for twice the amount of work and an 8-month time commitment for the second season. The stark contrast between increased workload and decreased compensation left the actor feeling that he had no choice but to decline the offer. It's worth noting that Renner was careful to distinguish between Disney's financial department and Marvel Studios in his criticism. This is not Marvel, mind you. This is like just Disney, not even really Disney. It's just the penny pinchers, the accountants, he clarified. This distinction suggests Renner's issue is specifically with the business side of operations, rather than the creative team with whom he's collaborated for years. The actor's response to the offer was unequivocal. He rejected it outright, telling Disney's financial team to go fly a kite, as he colorfully phrased it. Despite this strong stance, Renner emphasized that his love for the Hawkeye character remains unchanged. I still love the character. I'd still love to do it, but I had to defend myself. What makes this situation particularly interesting is that it's not an isolated incident. Industry observers have noted similar patterns with other actors. John Malkovich, who is set to appear in the Fantastic Four First Steps 2025, revealed he had previously turned down Marvel roles for years due to what he perceived as insufficient pay for the demanding nature of superhero productions. If you're going to hang from a crane in front of a green screen for 6 months, pay me, Malkovich stated, highlighting the physical and time demands these roles often entail. Additionally, reports have suggested that other actors like Hugo Weaving, who played Red Skull, and Carrie Coon have also walked away from Marvel roles over what they considered lowball offers, though specific details of these negotiations remain less public. To fully appreciate the context of Renner's situation, it's important to consider the typical compensation structure for MCU stars. Top earners like Robert Downey Jr. reportedly received around $75 million for Avengers Endgame, while Chris Hemsworth and Scarlett Johansson have commanded approximately $20 million per film in recent years. These figures have been widely reported in industry publications, creating a stark contrast with Renner's reported offer. For his part, Renner's MCU earnings have reportedly ranged from $3 million to $15 million for previous films, making the alleged pay cut for Hawkeye Season 2 all the more dramatic. While exact figures for his Season 1 compensation haven't been publicly disclosed, industry estimates suggest the proposed reduction would represent a significant financial step backward for the actor. This controversy has certainly caught the attention of fans, many of whom have expressed strong support for Renner on social media platforms. On X, formerly Twitter, posts expressing disappointment with Marvel's decision have gained significant traction. One notable comment urged, "Pay that man his money," while another user criticized Marvel directly, "Hey, at Marvel Studios, that's messed up, no? Maybe next time you can not insult one of your original and longest-lasting cast members in a time when you're not exactly lighting the world on fire." Particularly noteworthy is how fans have connected Renner's situation to his personal challenges following the accident. The sentiment that Disney should be more considerate given his recovery journey has resonated strongly within the fan community, with some expressing that the offer feels particularly callous in light of what the actor has endured. Some fans have even speculated about potential future negotiations, with one commenting, "After the reveal and Thunderbolts, and Haley using her new leverage after Hash Sinners, he'll get paid." This references Haley Steinfeld's rising star power following her success in projects outside the MCU, suggesting her increased leverage might indirectly benefit Renner in future discussions. Disney, for their part, has remained relatively quiet about the specific details of the negotiation. An unnamed Disney insider cited by IndieWire disputed Renner's claims, but notably failed to provide specific details to counter his statements. This lack of transparency has only fueled further speculation about the nature of the offer and Disney's approach to talent compensation more broadly. The situation raises important questions about how actors are valued in an era of expanding streaming content and changing business models. For a character like Hawkeye, who has been part of the MCU since nearly the beginning, fans might reasonably expect compensation to reflect that long-standing contribution to the franchise's success. Adding another layer to this already complex situation is Renner's potential involvement in future MCU projects beyond Hawkeye. Despite the salary dispute, there have been indications that Renner might return as Hawkeye in Avengers Doomsday, scheduled for release on May 1st, 2026. In an August 2024 interview, Renner hinted at his involvement, stating he is really excited and thinks he'll probably be doing it. This suggests that while the Hawkeye series negotiations have reached an impasse, doors remain open for Renner's return in other capacities. Production on Avengers Doomsday reportedly began in April 2025, with a cast including Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm Invisible Woman, and Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson Assassin, Captain America, among others. So what does the future hold for Hawkeye in the MCU if Jeremy Renner were to permanently step away? The most likely scenario would see Kate Bishop, played by Haley Steinfeld, continuing the Hawkeye legacy. The Hawkeye series already established her as Clint Barton's protege, creating a natural transition path. Marvel could focus on developing new storylines for Kate, possibly incorporating her into projects like Young Avengers, which has been rumored to be in development. Such a transition would align with Marvel's broader strategy of introducing younger heroes and passing mantles to new characters, as seen with Anthony Mackie taking over as Captain America from Chris Evans. However, Renner's departure would unquestionably represent a significant loss for the franchise, given his long tenure and the fan attachment to his portrayal. As we continue to monitor this developing story, it's clear that the relationship between major studios and their talent remains a delicate balance of creative partnership and business negotiation. A pattern emerges: Marvel's history of financial disputes with stars. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, which has generated unprecedented box office success over its nearly two-decade existence, has not been immune to behind-the-scenes financial conflicts. In fact, a careful examination of the franchise's history reveals that Jeremy Renner's situation, while certainly dramatic, follows a well-established pattern of salary disputes that have periodically threatened to disrupt the carefully constructed MCU narrative. Perhaps the most famous or infamous early example of such a dispute involved Terrence Howard, who portrayed James Rhodes, later War Machine, in the original Iron Man 2008. What many casual fans may not realize is that Howard was initially paid more than Robert Downey Jr. for the first film, a reflection of Howard's star power at the time, and the perceived risk associated with casting Downey, who was then in the process of rebuilding his career. However, following the unexpected mega success of Iron Man, Howard's compensation was significantly reduced for future projects, reportedly due to budget reallocations that favored increasing Downey's salary. This dramatic pay cut ultimately led to Howard's departure from the franchise, with Don Cheadle stepping in to take over the role of James Rhodes' War Machine for Iron Man 2 and all subsequent appearances. Howard has been vocal about his frustration with this situation over the years, making it clear that financial considerations played a major role in his exit from what would become one of cinema's most successful franchises. This early instance set a precedent that we would see repeated in various forms throughout the MCU's evolution. Another high-profile dispute that captivated industry attention involved Scarlett Johansson, who had been portraying Natasha Romanoff Black Widow since Iron Man 2. In July 2021, Johansson took the extraordinary step of filing a lawsuit against Disney, alleging breach of contract related to the release strategy for her solo film Black Widow. At the heart of Johansson's claim was the decision to release Black Widow simultaneously in theaters and on Disney Plus Premier Access during the COVID-19 pandemic. The actress alleged this dual release strategy reduced box office revenue, which directly impacted her back-end compensation package that was tied to theatrical performance. Reports suggested Johansson sought approximately $80 million in damages on top of her $20 million base salary for the film. The dispute was ultimately settled in October 2021, with the terms undisclosed but estimated by industry insiders to exceed $40 million. While the specific circumstances of Johansson's case differ from Renner's current situation, both illustrate the ongoing tension between talent compensation and evolving business models in the entertainment industry, particularly as streaming has disrupted traditional revenue streams. Perhaps the most directly comparable precedent to the current Renner situation occurred following the monumental success of The Avengers 2012, which grossed over $1.5 billion worldwide and cemented the MCU as a box office juggernaut. Reports from 2013 indicated that several key Avengers actors, including Chris Hemsworth, Thor, and Chris Evans, Captain America, found themselves in contentious negotiations with Marvel over compensation for future appearances. These actors had signed what were later characterized as ungenerous contracts early in the MCU's development, before its financial success was assured. As the franchise grew exponentially in value, negotiations became increasingly tense. Marvel reportedly offered to triple Chris Hemsworth's contract, though they were not contractually obligated to do so in recognition of his growing importance to the franchise. Robert Downey Jr., who had shrewdly negotiated a percentage of profits rather than just a flat fee for his later appearances, leveraged his position as the MCU's center of gravity to secure increasingly substantial deals, reportedly earning around $75 million for Avengers Endgame, a far cry from the $500,000 he reportedly received for the first Iron Man film. These historical disputes highlight a recurring pattern in Marvel's approach to talent compensation. Initial contracts tend to favor the studio, with renegotiations becoming necessary as the franchise's success grows and actors gain leverage. The frequency of these disputes suggests a systematic approach to talent talent management that prioritizes controlling costs even as the overall franchise generates extraordinary revenues. But financial tensions within the MCU extend beyond just the major stars. Recent controversies have involved actors who, while not headlining their own films, have played crucial supporting roles in the franchise. For instance, reports emerged in 2025 that Carrie Coon had declined to return to the MCU over a salary dispute, though specific details remained private. Similarly, Hugo Weaving, who memorably portrayed the Red Skull in Captain America: The First Avenger, did not return for subsequent appearances, with financial considerations reportedly playing a role in that decision. The situation becomes even more complex when examining how Marvel's strategy has evolved in more recent phases of the MCU. Industry reports suggest that for Phase 4 and beyond, Marvel aimed to decrease tentpole actor salaries, part of a broader strategy emphasizing character brands rather than star power. This approach reportedly resulted in lower salaries for actors like Salma Hayek, Angelina Jolie, and Richard Madden compared to what earlier MCU stars had commanded at similar points in their tenure. This strategic shift appears to reflect Disney's growing confidence in the Marvel brand itself, rather than the individual actors portraying the characters. While this might make financial sense from a corporate perspective, it risks alienating the very talents who bring these beloved characters to life, as we've seen with Renner's public rebuke of what he perceived as an inadequate offer. The disparity in compensation among MCU actors has also drawn increasing attention from fans and industry observers. For example, while Robert Downey Jr. earned approximately $75 million for Avengers Endgame, Chris Evans reportedly made around $20 million, and Chadwick Boseman earned approximately $2 million for Black Panther, a film that grossed over $1.3 billion worldwide. These significant gaps raise questions about equity and compensation, particularly when considering factors such as screen time, character importance, and contribution to the franchise's overall success. It's worth noting that some MCU actors have publicly acknowledged the complex nature of these negotiations without expressing outright dissatisfaction. Benedict Cumberbatch, who portrays Doctor Strange, has spoken about the business aspects of joining such a massive franchise while maintaining that he feels fairly compensated. Similarly, Paul Bettany, Vision, has discussed the evolution of his contract from a voice role as Jarvis to a full character with increased compensation, illustrating the potential for positive growth within the system. However, as evidenced by Jeremy Renner's recent statements, not all actors feel that their compensation has evolved appropriately with their contribution to the franchise. His rejection of what he described as an insult offer for Hawkeye Season 2 suggests that despite Disney's immense resources, there remains a tension between maximizing profitability and ensuring talent feels valued appropriately. This tension becomes particularly pronounced when considering the overall financial success of the MCU. As of 2025, the franchise has generated over $30 billion in global box office revenue, not including merchandise sales, theme park attractions, and the substantial value added to Disney's streaming platform. Against this backdrop of extraordinary financial success, offers that actors perceive as inadequate can appear particularly egregious. But financial disputes aren't the only area where Disney and its Marvel stars have found themselves at odds. In recent years, several MCU actors have publicly expressed disagreement with Disney CEO Bob Iger on various issues, from labor disputes to creative decisions. These conflicts add another dimension to the complex relationship between the studio and its talent roster. One notable example is Tatiana Maslany, who portrayed She-Hulk in the Disney Plus series of the same name. During the 2023 writers and actors strikes, Maslany criticized Iger as being completely out of touch with the workers who create Disney's content. She particularly highlighted the wealth disparity, pointing out that Disney's prosperity was not adequately shared with crew, cast, and writers. Her comments were part of a broader industry backlash against Iger's statements during the labor disputes, which many perceived as dismissive of striking workers' concerns. Similarly, Sean Gunn, who plays Kraglin and serves as the on-set reference for Rocket in the Guardians of the Galaxy films, publicly criticized Iger's remarks during the strikes. Speaking from the picket lines, Gunn directly addressed the massive pay disparity within Disney, stating, "I think when Bob Iger talks about what a shame it is, he needs to remember that in the 1980s, CEOs like him made 30 times more than what the lowest worker was making. Now Bob Iger makes 400 times what his lowest worker is, and I think that's a Gee, shame, Bob. Even Iman Vellani, star of The Marvels, has indirectly expressed disagreement with Iger. When asked about her film's disappointing box office performance, Vellani shifted responsibility to the CEO, stating simply, "That's for Bob Iger," and emphasizing that the results had nothing to do with me. While less confrontational than the comments from Maslany or Gunn, Vellani's statement nonetheless reflected a willingness to publicly distance herself from corporate disappointments and place accountability at the executive level. These examples demonstrate that financial disputes like Renner's exist within a broader context of tensions between Disney leadership and Marvel talent. The relationship between the studio and its stars appears increasingly strained across multiple dimensions, from compensation to broader industry issues like labor rights and creative direction. Perhaps most tellingly, even Bob Iger himself has acknowledged shortcomings in Marvel's recent trajectory. The bigger picture: Disney CEO Bob Iger and the future of the MCU. Bob Iger, who returned as Disney's CEO in November 2022 after previously serving from 2005 to 2020, has been a transformative figure in the company's history. Under his initial tenure, Disney acquired Pixar 2006, Marvel Entertainment 2009, Lucasfilm 2012, and 21st Century Fox 2019, dramatically expanding the company's intellectual property portfolio and establishing its dominant position in the entertainment industry. Since his return in late 2022, Iger has focused on reorganizing Disney into three branches: Disney Entertainment, Parks, Experiences, and Products, and ESPN. His leadership has been particularly focused on transforming Disney's streaming business and restoring creativity at the company's core goals that directly impact Marvel Studios' operations and output. However, Iger's leadership style and public comments have occasionally put him at odds with talent, particularly during periods of industry unrest. A prime example of this tension emerged during the 2023 Writers Guild of America (WGA) and Screen Actors Guild American Federation of Television and Radio Artists (SAG-AFTRA) strikes, when Iger made comments that many industry professionals, including Marvel stars, found dismissive of legitimate concerns. In a particularly notable interview, Iger described the strikes as very disturbing and characterized the expectations of writers and actors as just not realistic. Let's examine his exact words.
Speaking of content, we're in the midst of a writer's strike, and very likely it would seem to have a actor's strike. How is that going to impact things, and what are your expectations there?
Well, I think it's very disturbing to me. We've talked about disruptive forces on this business and all the challenges we're facing and the recovery from COVID, which is ongoing. It's not completely back. This is the worst time in the world to add to that disruption.
And when directly asked if the writers and actors were not being realistic, Iger responded affirmatively.
So they're not being realistic?
No, they're not.
Why not?
I can't answer that question. I respect their right and their desire to get as much as they possibly can in compensation for their people. I completely respect that. I've been around long enough to understand that dynamic and to appreciate it. But you also have to be realistic about the business environment and what this business can deliver.
These comments sparked immediate backlash from many in the entertainment industry, including several Marvel stars. As mentioned earlier, Tatiana Maslany, who portrays She-Hulk, criticized Iger as completely out of touch with the workers who create Disney's content, while Sean Gunn highlighted the 400-to-1 pay disparity between Iger and Disney's lowest-paid workers. The strikes eventually concluded with new agreements that addressed many of the union's concerns, including protections against AI usage and improved streaming residuals. However, Iger's comments during this period created lasting tension between Disney leadership and the creative community, including many Marvel actors who participated in the strikes. This backdrop of labor disputes provides important context for understanding Jeremy Renner's salary negotiation. While Renner's situation predates the 2023 strikes, it reflects similar concerns about fair compensation in an evolving entertainment, a landscape. Renner specifically pointed to Disney's penny pinchers rather than Marvel Studios as the source of his frustration, suggesting that financial decisions at the corporate level are creating friction with talent. Beyond labor disputes, Iger has also made comments about Marvel's content strategy that have raised eyebrows among fans and industry observers. In December 2023, he suggested that the substance of MCU stories was partly to blame for box office struggles, particularly emphasizing what he perceived as too much focus on messages rather than entertainment. These comments drew criticism from creative figures like Peter Ramsey, co-director of Spider-Man Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, who defended the Marvels against Iger's implications. Fan discussions on platforms like Reddit also pushed back against Iger's framing, with many arguing that quality storytelling rather than ideological messaging was the primary concern for audiences. More recently, in February 2024, Iger outlined a plan to focus on larger MCU franchises as a strategy to save the superhero universe, indicating a potential shift toward more established characters and properties. This direction might have implications for newer characters and more experimental projects, potentially affecting the MCU's diversity of storytelling. Against this backdrop of strategic shifts and public statements, Disney's offer to Jeremy Renner takes on additional significance. Offering half the previous salary to an original Avenger could be interpreted as part of a broader strategy to reduce talent costs, particularly for Disney Plus productions. If true, this would align with reports that Marvel has been aiming to decrease tentpole actor salaries in Phase 4 and beyond. But while cost control might make sense from a pure business perspective, it risks alienating the very talent that has made the MCU successful. Fan reactions to Renner's revelation have been overwhelmingly supportive of the actor, with many expressing disappointment in Disney's approach. Comments on social media posts reporting the dispute show strong sentiment in Renner's favor, with users urging Disney to pay that man his money and criticizing the studio for what they perceive as disrespect toward an original Avenger. The timing of the offer is particularly notable given Renner's recovery from his near-fatal accident. Many fans have pointed out that offering a reduced salary to an actor who has endured significant physical trauma seems especially tone-deaf. As one ex-user commented, disappointing that Disney won't pay an OG Avenger to return, especially after what he's gone through to get back to acting. This brings us to the crucial question: what could these disputes mean for the future of the MCU? Several potential impacts are worth considering. First, there's the immediate question of Hawkeye's future in the franchise. If Jeremy Renner permanently steps away due to compensation disagreements, the most likely scenario would see Kate Bishop, Haley Steinfeld, continuing the Hawkeye legacy. The Disney Plus series already established her as Clint Barton's protege, creating a natural transition. Marvel could focus on developing new storylines for Kate, possibly incorporating her into projects like Young Avengers, which has been rumored to be in development. Such a transition would align with Marvel's broader strategy of introducing younger heroes and passing mantles to new characters, as seen with Anthony Mackie taking over as Captain America from Chris Evans. However, Renner's departure would unquestionably represent a significant loss for the franchise, given his long tenure and the fan attachment to his portrayal. If Renner were to leave, Marvel would miss his experience and depth as an actor who has portrayed Hawkeye for over a decade. His depiction of Clint Barton as a relatable, grounded hero with a family life has added valuable contrast to the more fantastical elements of the MCU. Additionally, his established chemistry with other Avengers actors has contributed significantly to the ensemble dynamic that has been central to the franchise's success. However, there are indications that despite the Hawkeye series dispute, Renner may still be involved in other MCU projects. As mentioned earlier, he has hinted at appearing in Avengers Doomsday, scheduled for release on May 1st, 2026. This suggests that while television negotiations have reached an impasse, his character might continue to appear in theatrical releases. Beyond the specific issue of Hawkeye's future, these disputes highlight broader challenges facing the MCU as it navigates its second decade. The franchise is currently in a period of transition, with many original stars having departed or taking on reduced roles. This creates a delicate balance between honoring legacy characters and establishing new ones, a balance that could be disrupted by contentious salary negotiations with veteran actors. For more content like this, click on the videos showing on your screen now.